Let's say you're in the market for a new car. You are in your mid-30s, you're married, and you have a kid. You're also doing well in life, and so naturally you've budgeted around rupees 20 lakh for your new car purchase because it's a nice round number and it has a good ring to it. And of course, you're looking at a compact SUV, the likes of the Kia Seltos and the Hyundai Creta, because everybody wants one of those. These are new, these are popular, these are feature-rich, but as it turns out, these are a little over your budget. May then we suggest this. This is the Kia Sonet. It's brand new, facelifted, and it has all the Korean goodness that you get in the Cretas and the Seltos, but in a more affordable and feature-rich package. But is this really that good? Good enough for you to ditch bigger SUVs and go for this? We've decided to present those findings in the pros and cons format. So essentially, we'll tell you what are the pros of buying the Sonet over the likes of the Creta and the Seltos, and of course the cons of getting this SUV over the likes of, like we just said, the Creta and the Seltos. And because we're in such a good mood, we will start with the cons. But before that, here's a quick introduction to the new 2024 Kia Sonet. What we have here is the top spec X Line trim powered by a 1.5-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine, which is then mated to a 6-speed torque converter automatic gearbox. This particular version costs a little over rupees 19 lakh on the road in Mumbai and expectedly comes packed with features. For starters, you get level 1 ADAS features. You also get a 360-degree camera, a full digital 10.25-inch color LCD cluster. You get a 10.25-inch touchscreen multimedia system as well, complete with built-in navigation, but there is wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The driver's seat is 4-way power adjustable with height adjust still being a manual function, and both the driver and front passengers get cooled seats. Finally, the Sonet X Line uses a Bose 7-speaker setup for the sound system. On the safety end, besides ABS, EBD and electronic stability control, it gets a total of 6 airbags, disc brakes all around, tire pressure monitoring system and hill start assist. And now let's talk about the cons. And the most obvious con for the Sonet has to be its road presence, or the lack thereof. Compared to the Seltos and the Creta, the Sonet is dimensionally smaller. So when you look at it in the flesh, it becomes even more obvious. Now, if you equate size to price or price to size, even though the Sonet is around 6 lakh cheaper than the Seltos, it still won't give you the sort of materialistic satisfaction you're looking in a big SUV. Now, space is also something that's lacking on the Sonet when you compare it to its larger Korean cousins. And as you can see, I'm about 5'8". The knee room is all right, but it is more in the Creta and the Seltos. Headroom again is all right, maybe similar to what you get in the Creta and Seltos, but it is the shoulder room that really makes a difference. So if you are our target audience that we described right at the start, maybe it doesn't matter because you'll have the kid here, you'll have the missus there, or you'll have the husband here. And so it's not really a problem. But if you choose to travel as a quintet or a team of 5 all the time, then of course the Sonet just won't cut it. You'll have to get the Seltos or the Creta.
And yes, it also has a smaller boot compared to the Seltos. The boot itself is reasonably large, honestly, but the Seltos, you get more.
And now let's talk pros of buying the Sonet over the likes of the Creta and the Seltos. And the biggest pro, in our opinion, is the drivetrain. So the Sonet uses the exact same engine and gearbox combo when it comes to diesel automatic. When you compare it to the Seltos and the Creta, so it's the same 1.5-litre 4-cylinder diesel, and this engine is mated to a 6-speed torque converter automatic. Now, in terms of driving, when you sit inside, the refinement levels, the quietness, all of that is also exactly the same as you get in the Creta and the Seltos. So that feel of, being in a bigger car or driving a car from a higher segment, that feel continues on the Sonet as well. What changes to an extent is the feel when you drive it, because this car is lighter. It's about 150 kgs lighter than the Seltos, and you can feel that when you start driving. That peppiness is a little more obvious on the Sonet compared to the Creta and the Seltos. The other pro of buying the Sonet over the Seltos and the Creta is the dynamic ability. Now, this is a smaller car than the Seltos and the Sonet. Now, that might have been a problem when it comes to road presence, but when it comes to driving dynamics, when it comes to ability to chuck the car around corners, smaller dimensions work better. There is less heft now to ferry around as well. This is 150 kgs lighter thereabouts, as we just said in the previous segment. And so when you don't have the missus on board, when you don't have the kid on board, and when nobody's really looking, you can indulge in some hooliganism with this car, close to the limit driving, which is more fun, which is more adjustable than the likes of the Creta and the Seltos. So if you're young at heart, because you're in your mid-30s, you're definitely young otherwise, and you like driving, then the driving dynamics of the Sonet is something that you will appreciate compared to what you get on the Creta and the Seltos. The other advantage of the Sonet in the Sonet versus Seltos and Creta argument, as we see it, is the size makes it easier to drive, or the lack of size. So it's slightly narrow, not hugely narrower compared to the Creta or the Seltos, but that it's enough to make you feel that you're driving something that is smaller and therefore easier to place when you're dealing with traffic. The visibility up front is nice. There's no problem through the A-pillar. Yes, the C-pillar is a little challenge when it comes to, the Sonet, but otherwise it is an easy car to drive, and because of the lack of size, it's easier too. Not just to drive, but also to park, for instance. So now we're between two cars, and because it's a smaller sized car, you can get into gaps in place, put it in where you wouldn't otherwise if you had, let's say, the Creta or the Seltos. So advantages for sure when it comes to having a smaller car. And if you're going to use it primarily in the city for people of three, it's just easier to live with. Given the lesser weight of the Sonet, it is no surprise it is the more efficient SUV. On our city test route, the diesel automatic Sonet returned a fuel efficiency of 15.8 kmpl. The Seltos, with the same drivetrain on the same route, gave 14.3 kmpl. The difference is telling. It was the same story on the highway run, where the Sonet returned 21.6 kmpl, while the Seltos' figure stood at 19.9 kmpl. The X Line here costs Rs 19 lakh on the road in Mumbai. This is the top spec Sonet you can buy. Compare this to the Seltos running the same engine and gearbox combo, and all you can afford for under Rs 20 lakh on the road is the HTK Plus trim, and that feels bare bones compared to the X Line. If we were to flip it, then you'd have to pay close to 6 lakh more for the Seltos X Line compared to the Sonet X Line. That's a good 30% more for a slightly bigger boot, more sensor space, and a panoramic sunroof. As far as ideology goes, we'd much rather pick a smaller or a car from a segment below that has more features and tech than a bigger car which is more basic. It just improves the whole ownership and driving experience, and when you step out with the family. And on that front, the Sonet wins hands down. Now, if you consider what we have here is the X Line, now compared to the X Line and the same drivetrain option, all you'll get in the Seltos is the HTK Plus. And when you compare the feature list on the two cars, well, they're drastically different, and the X Line has so much more. So if you're one that appreciates features and tech, something that you will enjoy every time you step inside the car, the Sonet is the one to go for. But if you want more metal, and higher road presence, like we said, maybe even a bigger boot, which you will not use as often, well then the Seltos and the Creta are your options. But for us, the Sonet X Line makes more sense.